Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Denny Schreiner, along with PBA Hall of Famer Dave Davis, and we are standing in palatial Tally Bowl here in Helsinki, Finland, for the finals of the 11th FIQ World 10-Pin Championships. David, you had a chance to bowl professionally over the last 20 years. This week, though, you've had a chance to watch some of the greatest amateur bowlers in the world. What are your thoughts about the AMs?
Very impressive, Denny. I was watching Annette, and I watched Rick Steelsmith and some of the other players from Finland and Helsinki area. And I was just really impressed with the quality of mental game they have more than the physical game. I think the mental aspect of their bowling has probably doubled or trebled in the last 4 years.
Let's get more specific now. Let's talk about the two top seeds. First in the women's division from Sweden, Annette Hagberg. Very, very fine, solid track player.
I think you hit it right on the head. Annette has not a great ball. She doesn't throw a big hook, not a big curve or anything like that. But what Annette does have is accuracy. She has the ability to continually put pressure on her opponents by never getting open frames, and that's a big plus for her.
Let's talk about Rick Steelsmith now. Already with 4 medals, 2 gold and 2 bronze at this stage. He is the all-events leader at this point and just an awesome player.
Well, he's going for his 3rd gold today, obviously. Rick Steelsmith is the past Masters champion. In fact, he's the current Masters champion. What can you say about Rick Steelsmith? He's awesome. The people at home are going to get a real treat in watching a young man who's just out of Wichita State College, and my goodness, you know, he throws as much hook as anybody I've ever seen.
Unbelievable potential, and we're looking for a very exciting show. Nice for both of us to be in Helsinki this week.
It is very. You know, right now it's beautiful weather here, too.
And we're expecting a dynamite show. Stay tuned. The women's final coming up next. And this is the opening shot of the championship match. The 11th FIQ Championships, obviously the women's division. Championship pair being 11 and 12, and there you see 35-year-old Annette Hagberg of Sweden, who is the top qualifier, Dave Davis. And what do you think about her game?
Well, it's obviously she's so solid. I mean, she goes through the ball so beautifully. She doesn't overhook it, and that's a power plus for her because she's so accurate. She doesn't get open frames, Danny, and I think that's the key to her winning.
First cross alley spare attempt hangs on, and so a spare for Hagre, who averaged 211.8. Now her opponent in the title match, Mayumi Hayushi of Japan, who has already won 2 matches. She defeated USA's M. Sue Holton 205 to 191, and then in the semifinal game she knocked off Carol Gianetti of Australia 226 to 170. Very steady player.
Yeah, she's not only a steady player, she has a very similar game to Annette, that she doesn't throw a lot of hook. She plays it off the corner. She's still, we were watching the games earlier when she won both, and she had a little problem hitting the right-hand lane, and again, she threw the ball Brooklyn, as you can see. She's just a little afraid, maybe, to let the ball go on the right-hand lane.
Now, for our viewers in the United States, let us mention that in the title match of the FIQ, in the singles, it's a 2-game match, total pins. Now, should the challenger have more total pins than the top seed, then they would go to a 3rd game, and it would just be that one final game to determine the gold medalist. Bit of an unlucky break that time for Hayushi.
It evened early, though. She threw the Brooklyn in the 1st frame, got fortunate there to get the strike, and then got a bad break in the 2nd frame, leaving the 7th pin.
Kind of amazing, David. The first 2 games that she's already bowled here in the finals, error-free at this point as far as opens. She has not opened yet.
Right, no great scores, just a lot of spares, putting her strikes together now and then, a double here and a turkey there. She's averaging 215 for the 2 games so far, and like you said, no open frames.
Crowds just absolutely marvelous here at Tally Bowl in Helsinki, Finland this week, as the facility, a palatial one, seats better than 2,000. It's been jam-packed all week long.
It's jam-packed again today. I mean, we're looking down on top of all these people from our perch high up in the top of Tally Bowl, and it is just a beautiful facility here.
Annette with 2 silver medals already in this competition through the nose on lane 12. The Swedish contingent doing very well indeed. It looked like a fast footwork there, huh, David?
Gee, I can't throw the ball that fast.
We might mention to everybody at this point that, in essence, we are taking the feed that is live throughout the entire country of Finland. And so, from time to time, if we sound a bit confused, it's only because we're seeing things secondhand. This telecast also live in Sweden.
If we sound confused, it's only because we are.
and because of jet lag. For those of you in the States, we are 7 hours in front of you. What a marvelous experience. A tremendous tournament. First time ever the FIQ Championships on USA television. Big shot on lane 11 for Annette Hagberg, who averaged 211.8 en route to winning 11 out of 15 matches.
She's happy. She got her first strike. Get those butterflies over with. I know from past experience for me, Denny, it took me 4 or 5 frames to get settled a little bit, and you had to hope that your opponent didn't jump on you in that time.
Now, what about the challenger, though, David? Hayushi has had plenty of time to get lined up on the pair.
That's exactly right. She has a lot of problems on this right-hand lane, Denny, again going high. Now, she did that 4 straight shots last game. She's done it 2 straight shots this game, and if she continues, eventually, I would have to think it's going to get her. It's
now,
eventually going to pay the price.
Hopefully, we'll see it throughout this game, but she is, as Dave has mentioned, has thrown the ball through the nose on a number of occasions and has yet to leave a split. Why is that, Dave?
Well, she throws a full roller that's a soft full roller. It hits the finger hole. Everybody can hear that going down the lane. And what it does is it pushes the pins sideways. They don't fly up in the air because the ball's not powerful enough to push the pins in the air. So it moves them sideways, and the longer you can keep them going sideways, obviously, the more you can knock over. Sometimes I wish my ball would go sideways.
It goes sideways when you don't want it to.
That's
half
right,
the time,
exactly.
Right? Yeah, who didn't know that?
It's not the ball, it's the operator.
44 countries represented in this year's 11th FIQ Championships.
You hear that ball bouncing over that finger hole? Keeps it on line. When it looks like it's going to go through the nose, it settles back and hits flush.
Well, for the fans' sake, David, give us a description of, in essence, what a full roller is. And here's a good shot of the slow-mo.
Well, you can see her thumb kicks up way to the right. In other words, her thumb kicks outside the ball, and it rolls the ball between the thumb and finger holes. It's called a full roller. It takes full advantage of the circumference of the ball.
That's what Billy Hardwick used to throw, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
And threw it very well.
Oh, yes. And another great one was Gene Rhoda many years ago.
Hagre on the right-hand lane, and this time it's flush, and so she is the first to double. Big strike in the 5th. And neither one of these players going to make too many mistakes.
No, I don't think so. The mistakes are going to have to be enormous mistakes. They both keep the ball on line, and again, they both have a similar type game that pushes the pin sideways. That ball that Annette threw looked like it was going high, and it just settled back to the pocket.
Annette, a computer operator in her native country, Sweden. Big shot. There's a turkey for Annette Hagre, and she looks at this point to be very confident indeed.
It's the first time, Denny, as you can see her going through now. Watch the loft. Keeps the ball on line. Doesn't overhook. It just rolls around a little bit. But it's the first time that the Japanese lady has had a little pressure applied early. And we'll just have to see how she responds to that.
Keep in mind, this is a 2-game match, and it's total pins. Should the top seed win, then she obviously will get the gold medal. Well, maybe not necessarily the strategy you might employ, Dave Davis, but the Brooklyn, she's made a lot of use of that in this championship thus far.
Well, she's got 1 ball in the nose on lane 12, and the other 2 balls were Brooklyn for strikes. Now, last game, she threw 4 out of 5, either in the nose or Brooklyn on that lane. She's obviously not going to change her target, and she's not going to change her feet because it's successful. Don't change till it stops working.
If it ain't broken, don't fix it.
That's right.
Well, comes right back with a big double, trips out that 4. So it's a turkey now for the challenger in this match, and both players rising to the occasion.
That's a 1-pin game.
Stay tuned for more exciting action from the women's match, the women's championship match in the 11th FIQ World 10-Pin Bowling Championships. Cali Bowling Center in Helsinki, Finland for more action in the 11th FIQ Championships. We'd already mentioned that Mayumi Hayushi had defeated M. Sue Holton, the only American to qualify in the top 4. 205 to 191, but the USA, Team USA women's team, unbelievable this year.
She cut that swing a little bit short that time. You can see it. She just didn't finish through the shot. She got it on line, but cutting it short makes it hook a little earlier, and the ball obviously goes high on her.
Getting back to Team USA, as far as the women are concerned, they won 6 medals overall, 4 of those gold, and they just completely dominated the team event. All 6 made the match play finals.
Yes, the first time, I think, in the history of the event that all 6 of the team players have made the finals. So it was a great week here for the Team USA.
To give you an idea where everybody finished, Cora Fiebig ended up 6th. Nellie Glandon was 7th. Kathy Watka 9th. Looking on down the line, Sandra Jo Sheary in 11th place. And then Karen Bender wrapping up the USA contingent in 14th. But Team USA, the women, just had a remarkable year.
Yeah, great year. Much better swing through that shot. Much better swing that time.
You know, it's amazing for those in the United States who have not seen the FIQ finals before. This is amateur bowling, amateur sport, in a very serious nature, Dave Davis.
Well, the people here in Finland and the people actually all over the Scandinavian countries take bowling as a pure sport. In other words, they come in here and they do their calisthenics and they work out and they do their road work and they do everything in that order. Then they come in and practice. And when they're done practicing, they go downstairs to the locker room, which they have here, beautiful facilities here at Tally Bowl. In the locker room, they have a masseuse. They have the showers. They have the steam room. They have everything as any sporting event would have.
Working on the turkey. And making a 4-bagger. And whoever said that you can't use the Brooklyn side? I don't know. Is that strategy, Dave Davis, or is this just luck? I mean, come on. Look at it on the replay here.
Well, I don't really know if it's strategy. I just cannot believe at this point in time. Of course, I can believe because I'm watching it, but she should. I would think by now she would have changed those targets. But every time it's a little bit high on the Brooklyn or it's solid Brooklyn, so maybe why change it? As you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is the lane she keeps the ball in the pocket.
Well, a half 10 that time, bit of a soft 10. Mayumi captured 9 of 15 matches. The difference being here in the FIQ that you get 10 bonus pins for a victory. So she ended up with 90 bonus pins in the match play finals. Qualified in the number 4 position and has continued to climb the ladder.
Good concentration. I think her mental game, I haven't had the opportunity to speak with her, but her mental game looks just terrific to me.
I know you commented earlier about the mental game of the amateurs. Dave, could you maybe expound a little bit on that?
Well, especially, again, here in the Scandinavian countries and in most of the European countries and Japan, they work very hard on their mental game. I know that in our Olympic facilities in Colorado, they stress the mental pictures of what you're going to do and the mental aspect of how you're supposed to do it. And we've only been doing that now. Well, there's a beautiful break. We've only been doing that now for a few years, but the people here have been doing it for many years, and I think they have a little bit of a head start. This is terrific. You're going to see the 3-pin here. Get left. She throws the ball a little soft. There's the 3-pin. Look at out of the gutter on the left, just touching the back of it.
Boy, you love to see breaks like that.
Perfect.
She needed the strike, too, in the 8th frame. Trying to double up in the 9th to put a little more pressure.
That one better hurry.
On her opponent. Kicks out the 2-4-5.
And spare easier.
Yep. Obviously like to shoot at 1-pin spares as compared to anything more than that. Very close match. The championship finals of the FIQ. And coming up just a little bit later, the finals in the men's division. And that's right, Rick Steelsmith of Wichita State University is the top seed representing the USA. We'll be back with more bowling action from the Tally Bowling Center in Helsinki, Finland, right after these messages. Bowling Center in Helsinki, Finland, for more action in the 11th FIQ Championships.
Okay, Denny. My question to you is, will she move or will she go higher Brooklyn on this?
She's going to go
again?
Brooklyn.
Okay.
Heck, why stop now?
Put you on the spot.
Sure. And we were both wrong. She goes to the wall shot and carries the 5-7. She has an assortment. What an array of shots, Dave Davis. Did your repertoire include that many different types of shots as we see it on the screen?
No. Well, I can't say no. I guess there were times when it did. But again, we were talking earlier about how her ball keeps the pins low. You see the pins go to the sideboard and come back across. Nothing flying in the air and over the top. Everything is moving sideways, and that's perfect for breaking up splits and carrying those wall shot strikes.
An amazing run, really. She has yet to leave a split, almost a baby split there, a big smile on her face. From Miyazaki, Japan.
A little bit high. This is the first time in quite a while that she's missed the left-hand lane hitting the pocket. And got a fortunate break knocking the 10 out.
You know, she's bowling right now at a 208 clip, averaging 215 for her first 2 victories thus far in this championship. And she's yet to miss a spare.
Maybe she thought the 10-pin was still there. Or just practicing in case she left it.
Hey, you have to think ahead.
She's working at a 228 clip here if she gets a strike. See that nice roll, just touches it.
That could finish with 228, not a bad start. How many times have you seen it, Dave, especially in all your years on the PBA Tour, where the player who wins the first match just seems to get the momentum and the rhythm, and they're just about virtually unstoppable by the time they get to the top seed?
Well, that's exactly right. She's now won 3 games in a row. She defeated the American girl, she's defeated the Australian girl, now she's defeated the Swedish girl. And it's something that Annette is going to have to contend with. Surely Annette knows that she's won 3 in a row. What Annette has to do here is just get herself composed, make good shots, and get herself mentally back in the game.
That's exactly what she did there on the right-hand lane. That's probably the best shot that she has thrown in the entire match, and you can see the determination on her face, 35 years of age, mother of 2.
Good loft on the shot, good finish, and I think that's a good, strong part. She finishes what she starts, and that's a terrific shot there. Every pin doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
Amazing, really, when you consider the fact that Annette had some major surgery done on her right wrist just this past September, came back and won the European Championships in October, a 50-game event. So she was obviously back all the way and got a bit of a break that time.
You see, less loft that time and not as strong a follow-through. A little tentative on the follow-through, maybe because she has a tender wrist. Ball in Brooklyn. Turnabout's fair play, I guess.
Big double, though.
Absolutely. Gets her to the 220 range, 224.
Pretty close start, so it's 227, 224 in the opening match. And as we've mentioned a couple of times, it's a 2-game match, total pins. Should the challenger win, then she would gain the gold medal. Oh, maybe correct myself there. Should the top seed win, she would win the gold medal. Should the challenger win, they go to a 3rd game, a tie-breaking game, and the total pins from just the 3rd game determine who wins the medal.
Exactly.
Okay. Stay tuned. Still more men's and women's championship bowling to continue from the Tally Bowling Center in Helsinki, Finland, right after these messages. In Helsinki, Finland, for more action in the 11th FIQ Championships. And, of course, all this the prelude to the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, South Korea, where for the first time ever, bowling will be utilized as an exhibition sport. That'll take place September 18th in Seoul, and I think everybody in the bowling industry just tickled to death to see that.
Well, that's true, and I think that probably Jack Reichert, who's chairman of the board and chief executive officer of the Brunswick Corporation, was probably the most instrumental person in the industry to really push it through. I know he did many hours of work on it, and just pushed all the officials to make it work.
Opening spare in game number 2. Roger Tessman, the president of the FIQ, obviously orchestrating that as well. Really a move that the entire bowling industry can be very, very proud of. And hopefully this will set the stage for the future, and bowling will be represented as a medal sport in the Olympics.
Well, with so many countries, Denny, around the world that do have bowling centers and do have people that participate constantly in the game, it's a natural for the Olympics.
It's amazing, too, Dave. We were chatting just prior to going on the air here today that the 4 women who made the finals here representing 4 different continents.
That's correct.
And it gives you an idea of the flavor of this event. There are some tremendous amateur bowlers all over the country, and really bowling does belong in the Olympics.
Well, I agree. I know that if I were at that young age where I had a choice of turning pro or going for the Olympic team, there'd be no question that I would go for the Olympic team. There's no question at all. I'd rather have that gold medal hanging up there and wait 1 year or 2 years to get on the tour.
And the Swedish contingent right now cheering because, as you see on the replay, it's a big double for Annette Hagre.
It's a very slow and teasing double. You can see the 7-pin very slow to go over.
As long as it goes down.
That's right.
On the right-hand lane, Mayumi Hayushi.
Score today, aim tomorrow.
That was always your motto, right?
Yes, sir. That's Mayumi's motto also. She keeps throwing the ball broken on lane 12.
Might also mention the fact that these two ladies have already bowled 7 matches today, alone, earlier today, to qualify for the championship finals. As did the men. Rick Steelsmith, representing the United States, will be up just a little bit later to look for his 5th medal of these championships.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Rick Steelsmith has bowled now 2 tournaments in the last month and a half. He won the Masters. He bowled that tournament, won the Masters. Now he has a chance to win another major world title. I think that's pretty exciting.
An amazing player, and for many bowling fans in the United States, one that they really haven't seen very much of. And when he gets a chance to start to play on the PBA Tour down the road, probably sometime in January, if you get a chance and you're in the area, don't forget to buy a ticket and stop out and see him. He's a tremendous young man, not only a fine young gentleman, but physically, I know, Dave, that you're very impressed with his game.
Oh, yes. He's got a lot of hook on the ball, and that seems to be the game today. The contemporary game is the power game. But he does it with stroke, and that's the thing I like about it. There are a lot of players that can throw a lot of hook, but to be accurate doing it is something that's not found very often, and Rick does that very well.
Carol Giannotti of Australia captured the bronze in this event. She was defeated by Hayushi, 226 to 170 in the semifinal game. And this match is about as close as you can get. Get a chance to take a look at the score.
Annette working on I shouldn't say it, a perfect game.
Why not?
Okay, I'll say it. She's working on a perfect game.
Attaboy. See, I told you. Don't worry about it, David. Be confident out there.
Those superstitions are only good in the U.S.
And you were a superstitious player.
That's right.
What am I saying? You were. You still are. Come on. I'm not writing you off.
No, I get out there. You can see how solid this is. Oh, that's a perfect shot, Danny. With all 10 pins go in the back, can't throw it better than that.
Amazing. You did a little research on the averages between the men and the women.
Yes. The thing I liked is that Rick Steelsmith was the only male to beat the 4 women that made the semifinals today.
That's really an amazing statistic when you think about it. Annette herself averaging 211.8 en route to winning 11 of 15 matches. And look at the revs on this shot. Making that 5-pin dance a little.
Right, but just a little bit late coming out of the ball. I think it delayed that turn. And that's all right. The 10-pin's a lot easier than the 5-10.
So she starts with a turkey in game number 2 and has to settle for a spare in the 4th frame. 79 now through 3 frames.
Quick 21-pin lead. That's nice.
And she trails by 3 pins overall in the match.
See, she's sitting there discussing her shot with her coach. In the FIQ championships here, in the World Championships, they're allowed to have their coaches on the bench with them, discussing every shot if they feel like it.
Near split that time for Hayushi. And she's not afraid to throw the ball at the head pin, Dave.
Absolutely not. You have to give her a lot of credit. She really, for me, it would make me nervous going broken or hitting the nose. Doesn't seem to bother her at all because she knows that ball is not going to leave very many splits. Not going to get her in a lot of trouble.
I wonder, we didn't get a chance to speak with her prior to the championship round, but I wonder how many pounds that bowling ball is. David, would that have any effect on what happens to the pins?
I think she's using a 15-pounder. I heard someone mention that earlier. I'm not positive, but I think, as you can see there, we're sitting down looking at her coach, and he's telling her to finish through that shot. But she makes a perfect shot at the 3-6-10, no problem whatsoever.
Just in case you've just joined us, we are in Helsinki, Finland, at Tally Bowling Center. Just a beautiful arena facility. one of the finest in the world.
This is probably the greatest tournament house that I've ever been in. Magnificent facility. We must be 30 feet above the players right now where we're sitting.
2,000 fans on hand, that's the capacity. And they say that during the team event of the FIQ championships, the fans are almost as if they're at a football game. They're screaming and hollering and jumping up and down, and they've been very boisterous here.
But it's not team against team, you know, it actually becomes country against country, and it's just really, it's almost like the European soccer games that you hear the people shouting in the great stadiums, and that's exactly what Tally Bowl sounded like this week.
We'll be back with more bowling action from the Tally Bowling Center in Helsinki, Finland, right after these messages. Center in Helsinki, Finland for more action in the 11th FIQ Championships. Team USA women captured the women's title in convincing fashion,
yes,
I might add.
Certainly did.
Big strike on lane 12. And both players, I think, have pretty much settled in at this point, don't you, Dave?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that, Denny. I think that Annette is probably really settled down and mentally into her game and not worrying about how she looks on television and if her hair is straight and things like that a lot of people worry about. And I'm sure those things went through her mind while she was up there. They do everybody's.
Well, if Annette wins by more than 3 pins, then she would capture the gold. She's very well aware of that. Oh, my.
See, she cut that shot off a little bit, didn't finish that swing through, and it makes it hook early.
Well, the door opens up.
Early roll. You can see how quickly that ball hooked there. And unfortunately, not a break.
Well, the Swedish player is very accurate. Let's see if she gives this a run.
I think that was a smart play. I think trying to keep that count, stay ahead in that count, because as you said, she needs to win by 3. And I think saving that count, taking 1 pin, taking your lumps, sit down, that's the best thing she could have done.
Now, there's not a mistake in the score for those of you in the United States. They have a little different system once they get over 100 or 200, Dave.
They certainly do. They eliminate the first numbers, so she doesn't just have 27. That's 127 in the 6th.
Tell you, if you looked up and you were in the middle of a match and you saw that, it might scare you a little bit. What happened to all the pins I knocked down? There are a lot of things that are different in bowling when you get outside the United States.
There are a lot of things different, but it's the only sport in the world where all the rules are exactly the same. Now, the way they keep score or the way they maybe bowl rather than waiting 2 lanes or only waiting 1 lane and things like that. There's a lot of little things, but the basic rules for bowling are followed worldwide. There are no changes in the basic rules.
And it's still the #1 participation sport in the world, I believe. Over 100 million people a year bowl at one time or another. And I know you've spent quite a bit of time traveling the last couple of years all over the world, bowling and exhibitions and clinics.
Sure have. I was here in Helsinki approximately 1.5 years ago, and at that time I was so impressed on the way the Finnish team came in and did their road work in the morning, and then they did their exercises out here on the lanes and all their calisthenics, and that was with their coach making them do it. I mean, there was no being lazy about it. They had to get out there and work, and obviously the way they finished this week, it's shown.
And hard as this is to believe, it's the first split leave for Mayumi Hayushi. A baby split on the left-hand lane. And this pivotal shot here.
She's struggling a little bit this game. This is a very big shot if she wants to stay in the match.
It's amazing when you say she's struggling in this game when all of a sudden it's for all the wheat, as Roy Buckley used to say. When it's for the gold medal, you have a tendency to tighten up a little bit.
That's exactly right. Your span gets short. You don't lift the ball as hard. You know, the finger holes are all of a sudden too big. You're perspiring more than you want to. People are making noise. Every little thing tends to distract you when you're going for it.
And you're speaking from experience, obviously, with 18 titles and bowling from that top seed position on numerous occasions. It's no picnic. It's exciting, I'm sure, but it's tough on the old nerves. And speaking of nerves, Annette Hagberg steps up and throws it right through the nose on lane 12, and you thought the door might have been locked. It's been reopened.
Well, absolutely. She's just gotten soft twice in a row, and you can see the ball just really snap hooks back through the nose. 2 holes in a row. She's just opening the door, as you said, Danny, and it's not what she should be doing right now. She should be really charging that shot.
Dave, you know, you mentioned the fact that in FIQ competition, the players have their coaches in the settee area. Speaking from your end of things, experience-wise, would it have helped you to have somebody that knew your game that might have been able to point something out when you were bowling bad?
I think there is no question at all that any professional or any good or great amateur who has a coach there will benefit from that thing. Because you can't see how you bowl. You can only feel what's going on, and sometimes the most minor thing can change your entire attitude about the way you throw the ball.
Big shot here on lane 11 for the top seed.
Much firmer shot. You can see the ball went much longer down that lane before it went into a heavy roll.
So you feel, in essence, that's the key to her game at this point, is just to stay real firm at the line?
Oh, yes. I think the lanes are starting to hook. Like you said, they've had a lot of games on them now. They're wearing a little bit, and she's going to have to stay firm. That ball's going to crawl up high on her.
Back on the other side for Mayumi Hayushi, and she's still alive. As we mentioned, she leads by 3 pins in this 2-game match heading in to the second game. She trails at this point by 16.
I think Mayumi is ambidextrous. The left pocket on the right lane and the right pocket on the left lane.
I'm telling you, she's playing it that way. You won't believe me.
Well, I'm going to have to believe it here shortly.
Especially if she wins,
That's right?
Well, I'll let you ask her that perhaps later on. Your Japanese is pretty good, isn't it?
I know about 3 words, yes.
I think that's the unusual thing about this event, too, Dave, is that you get a chance to meet so many people from all over the world, and they all have one thing in common. They love the sport of bowling.
Yes, they do. And they treat it as a sport, and that's the thing that I like most. They train mentally and physically so hard for it. Terrific to watch.
Now, this is a key shot in the 9th frame. Could be a spare. And puts herself in a position where her title hopes are still alive.
Well, what's going to happen here, the way the situation sits, is that Annette has got a 16-pin lead. If she strikes in the 9th, she's going to go to 26 pins, and if she spares in the 10th, she's going to be the winner. Simple as that. So this is a huge ball for her. This can lock it up.
Well, let's see if she stays firm, as you've mentioned before, on lane 12.
She's got to throw it far. Much better. See how much speed she put into that shot? Oh, worst break of the match right there. Absolutely the worst break. Then you couldn't throw it better than that.
Nope. I loved how you reacted to that. Those solid 10s and solid 7s, the bowler's nemesis. How many times have you thrown a key shot, David, and threw it the best you possibly could, only to leave a solid pin?
Yeah, you throw your ball down there and get a solid pin. You want to throw your shoe at it.
The amazing thing is, after all those years, you still have hair on your head. Hang on.
Not as much as used to be.
Yeah. And Annette right now probably breathing a little bit easier at this point. She's closing in on the goal.
Well, it's a beautiful cross-lane shot, as the camera shows there, but she is just a marvelous player. She keeps her swing under control. Again, she cannot get soft. 9 spare 9 will also win the tournament for her.
That sets up the 10th frame.
See that? Softer, just a touch softer, and that ball just wants to bite that lane.
How tough is it, Dave, when you find yourself in a position, you look at the score, you know what you need. You go through your whole career trying to throw strikes. Now all you only need is 9 spare 9. Does it weigh on you differently, or do you just approach it from a strike standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. The easiest spare to get, or the easiest mark, is a strike. No question about it. The easiest mark to get is a strike.
That ball has got to be getting a little bit heavy at this point, as the Swedish contingent, the fans, beginning to realize.
Not only that, but her coach just walked up to her and explained to her exactly how many pins she needed. Now, I don't know if I'd want my coach doing that.
Add a little excitement to it. Well, this 35-year-old mother of 2 already has a pair of silver medals. But, boy, she would love the gold.
Must get 9, Denny. Got to have 9. There it is. She's the winner. She is your winner, folks.
And she gets a congratulatory hug from a coach and a teammate as Annette Hagre of Sweden looks up at the scoreboard, realizing that the gold is hers. Don't go away. Still more action left in the men's division of the 11th FIQ World 10-Pin Championships from Tally Bowling Center in Helsinki, Finland. In Helsinki, Finland, and now we have the beginning of the finals of the men's singles division. Rick Steelsmith will start in the left-hand lane. He is the top seed player, and he'll face off with 38-year-old Roger Pieters out of Belgium, who just defeated Tom Hall of Finland 201 to 193. Here's the opening shot.
little bit tentative, leaving the 3-6-10, and the man in motion over there, the 7 with it. We watched him in practice, and he hit pocket, 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 pocket. Opened the match just a little bit tentative, and I'm sure that'll disappear very early with him.
It was amazing. A little bit earlier today, the first game, actually the first shot of match play this morning, that's exactly what Rick Steelsmith left. He missed it, but then went on to win 7 consecutive matches, so he didn't let it bother him.
Yeah, he's got a good head on his shoulders.
Well, so an open frame for Rick Steelsmith out of Wichita State. And here's your first look at Roger Pieters, who defeated the local favorite here, Tom Hall, and in front of a capacity crowd. That's not an easy task.
No, there's about 2,000 people here, Denny, and they're all obviously, or not all, but most of them are from Finland and the Helsinki area, and they wanted their boy to win, and you can't blame them. That's exactly what would happen in any country.
A father of 2, very deliberate player, spends a lot of time on the approach before he gets into his approach.
That's right. I call them patient players. They're very patient about what they do.
And I'm certain at this point, obviously, Roger, very well aware of the kind of player that Steelsmith is, wants to take every shot, maybe slow him down a little bit, and make nothing but key shots, because if Steelsmith gets lined up, it could be over early.
Well, I agree with that completely. I think Roger Pieters was discussing that very point with his coach just before the match started. They were discussing time and which lane to start on and things. And I think that's probably one of their strategies, is to keep Rick on that bench as long as possible.
Opening spare attempt, and Pieters converts, and you might have had a chance to see his grip. That first close-up, Dave Davis, he uses his index finger and his middle finger in the bowling ball.
He has that claw grip like Billy Harvick used to use. Billy had it because of some arthritis and a broken finger there in his ring finger, so he used the first 2, and this Roger Pieters does the same thing. But you can see he goes through a routine. He wipes the ball off. He has his rosin bag on top of the telescore there, and he pats that a few times, gets up and sets his feet, looks to see where his ball position is in his hand, and then very slowly brings it up to aim.
Pieters averaged just a fraction better than 200, 202.2 during the match play portion.
Great picture of that claw grip right there. Back-to-back solid 4s. Not a bad start.
Boy, what a contrast in styles as you look at his coach right there. One player right up the track very straight, the other arcing the ball from one end of the lane to the other.
Well, it's almost a contemporary player, a young fellow who has a contemporary game against a fellow who's been in the game, obviously, for several years. He's 38 years old, and that's the way he learned to play it back in those days, and that's the way I learned to play it, down and in, like Dick Weber and Don Carter.
Pieters finished 272 pins behind Rick Steelsmith. We'd like to point that out from the very beginning to show you the dominating effect that this 23-year-old has had on the amateur bowling world here this week in Helsinki. He has already won 4 medals, 2 gold and 2 bronze, and he's looking for number 5 here in the final.
The Mark Spitz of bowling.
Good. What did he win, 7?
He won 7 gold, yes.
I have a feeling if they'd had a few more events here that
That's right.
Mr. Steelsmith might have run him down.
That's right.
Uh-oh. Nearly the 2-8-10, but the 2-10 remains standing, and Rick Steelsmith, who has been waiting in the wings, as they say, for the better part of the last hour, has thrown a couple of shots a little too far to the right and hasn't quite gotten it back.
Beautiful stroke, though. Yeah, this young man has a gorgeous stroke. We call that the sissy split. You know, you don't quite catch it coming out. You're a little tentative, and that's the result, and it always irritates you that you didn't just go ahead and hit the ball. Perfect. Yep, he's really nervous, huh, Dennis?
Well, as you saw there, he changed balls for the spare attempt, but David, touch on that. The contemporary players that hook the ball so much, this split isn't as difficult as it looks, is it?
No, it is not. It's next to the baby split is probably the easiest. Even though there's a wide separation, that 2-pin sits up quite close, and you've got probably a good half an inch. That doesn't sound like much, but a good half an inch to hit a pin is a lot.
Plus, basically, when you're hooking the ball that much, you leave that split quite often. You're used to shooting it.
Right. You spin the pin over there. It's like English off of a cue ball.
And can't quite trip the 4, but he tripped a couple of 4s this week and rooted to setting an FIQ scoring record. He became the first player ever in the history of this tournament to shoot a 300 game. He did that in the trio event, which also locked up the gold for the trio. And then, I know that you saw it, Dave Davis. He shot 299, could have very well easily shot a pair of 300s in this event.
That's right. He shot that 299. He left a solid 9-pin, and that's for a right-handed player. It's very rare for that to happen, but he threw the ball with so much power, it absolutely blew the pins apart, and there was a 9-pin. It was really a bad break.
We'll be back with more bowling action from the Tally Bowling Center in Helsinki, Finland, right after these messages. Helsinki, Finland, for more action in the 11th FIQ Championships. For the week, Steelsmith averaged 217.6. As there you see the scoreboard graphic. Now, we want to explain to everybody, it's a 2-game match for the title, for the gold medal. Should Rick Steelsmith win total pins 2 games, he gets the gold medal. However, if Roger Pieters wins total pins for 2 games, then they would bowl a 3rd game, and the pinfall for that 3rd game would determine who wins the gold and who wins the silver. So there's a long way to go. A little different format in the FIQ when you work yourself up the step ladder.
Well, that's right. I think that this is going to be a very close match early. I have that feeling that the last shot, Rick threw a little bit better than he had the first 2. And those first 4 or 5 frame jitters are eventually going to settle down, and I think his swing will start to finish through harder, and it'll be a lot better match.
Roger Pieters lives in Eeklo, Belgium. Has a high game of 300, a high 3-game series of 765. On the left-hand lane. Lots of speed, good reaction that time. Ball held in the pocket, so a big double for Pieters, who steps up and gives everybody here a thought that, hey, I can knock off Steelsmith.
You can see Rick, he's probably got a little bit of not quite the feel that he wants. He might be losing the ball a little bit. Took a little coarse sandpaper, rubbed the inside of the thumb hole just slightly, just probably to get some of the perspiration of the body oils out of there.
430 bowlers, amateur bowlers from all over the world competing in Helsinki this week. And the first ever FIQ championship was held right here in Helsinki back in 1954.
A little better loft on that ball, Denny.
Yeah, a little better roll, a little better hit, and I think you're exactly right. The feel of the ball, not quite right. Dave, all those years that you bowled on television, what happens to your hand? Does it swell? Does it shrink? What happens to it out there?
It does everything. It swells, it shrinks, if the span gets long, the span gets short. The holes are too big, the next frame they're too small. A lot of things happen when you're not playing well. But when you're playing well on TV, well, the ball feels like $1 million.
But you constantly have to be aware of the feel of the ball. In other words, you're always thinking, do I need a piece of tape? Do I need this? Or...
Well, you think about playing golf, and you watch the pros play golf, or the great amateurs, and they fiddle around with that grip until they get it just right before they make their back. Same thing with the good bowlers. They have to have that feel just right, or it's not going to work.
Really hit that ball and cut it maybe just a little bit short, as he's puzzled at this point, pondering what kind of an adjustment he needs to make on the left-hand lane the next time.
Well, watching Rick this week, Denny, was rather interesting to me to watch his mental preparation on each shot. He really thinks his way through every shot. He thinks about what he wants to do before he gets on that approach, and when he gets up there, he just makes the shot he wants. Sounds easier than it actually is. Didn't switch balls this time.
Well, that's 2 opens in 6 frames for Rick Steelsmith.
Could have been 3 if he hadn't made that beautiful shot on the 210.
Sure.
As you can see, he killed the roll of this ball this time, trying not to chop the pin, and he overkilled it, didn't hook back. And Roger can get a big jump very early here.
Championship pair here at Tally Bowl, 11 and 12. Been a fairly high-scoring pair throughout the tournament.
That could go high.
Boy, it's when you watch Roger Pieters, and he bounces a little bit, has that footwork, almost reminds you a little bit of Jim Stefanich a little bit about the way that he gets started and gets into the shot.
Yeah, he does. Jimmy used to have that little dip at the start and then take off. Same thing, you're exactly right.
And, of course, Jim Stefanich and Les Sykes, oh, they had some exciting days FIQ-wise. Les Sykes probably the most decorated FIQ bowler in the history of this outstanding event.
Well, Les didn't turn professional until he was very late in life, and even at that time, he's winning tournaments still, and I think Les is in his mid-50s, and he's still winning tournaments.
Yep. Off to a very good start this summer, as a matter of fact. on ESPN. He and Brian Voss finishing second in the Showboat PBA Doubles Classic out in Las Vegas.
Am I correct in saying that one of the two didn't have a partner, had lost a partner to some illness or something, and almost had, I guess it was Brian lost somebody and had to talk less in the board?
Was supposed to bowl with Pete Weber.
Right.
Yeah, an amazing feat for Les Sykes. And it's funny, you talk about former FIQ greats. He and Stefanich both had some outstanding performances in this event. 44 different countries represented this year.
Better speed.
Better speed, better shot. And so Pieters basically at this point, Dave Davis, doing what he has to do to win this championship. Don't go away. Still more action left in the men's division of the 11th FIQ World 10-Pin Championships from Tally Bowling Center in Helsinki, Finland. Center in Helsinki, Finland for more action in the 11th FIQ Championships. Well, Steelsmith that time took a little more time to compose himself before he threw the shot, and he turned around and headed back about halfway down the lane as far as the ball was concerned, because he knew that was a strike.
Right, he's had enough experience now to know when he finishes through the shot right and when he has that good hand action that he can almost walk away from it.
I had a chance to talk with Rick just prior to the championship round, and if you hear a little rumbling down there, it's not his thumb or his finger holes, it's the serial ball, or the serial number, I should say, on his bowling ball. I asked him about the pair 11 and 12, and he said, Denny, he said, I scored much better at the lower end of the bowling center, like from 15 on down, than I did at the upper end. And they shot the 300 game on lanes 3 and 4, so he's very loose and likes this pair, but it's now a question of getting the job done. Oh, my goodness, that's about as far out as you can get, and there's 5 pins left standing on the 11.
Well, the 1, 2, 4, 6, 10, what he did was, in essence, go between the baby split, actually. You see the same thing sitting there. That's a bad break, and I think we watched earlier when the ladies played, and we watched some of the matches earlier today before the telecast with the men, and most of them who hooked the ball struggled on lane 11. Lane 11 is giving everybody a fit. Difficult shot.
Wow. Unbelievable. The fans here very appreciative of that conversion.
I'm impressed.
Oh, brother. Well, he's picked up what, the
well, this
210?
Is the one, yeah, the 210 he's made. Now he's made the 1, 2, 4, 6, 10.
Just like it was nothing. Like making a 5-pin.
It's the first time I've seen a little concern on his face, a little apprehension maybe. Not sure.
He doesn't show very much emotion.
No, not at all. And I think lane 11's got him just a little bit befuddled.
So it's Pieters again now on the right-hand lane, working on a strike. Keep in mind, this is a 2-game match, total pins. A bit lucky there to break up the split.
It was just a little bit high. But again, see, that's Roger Pieters' forte. He's got to keep that ball in the track, keep the firm speed on it, and his ball's just not going to go high on him.
The only other USA player to qualify for the singles championship round, the match play round, was Dwayne Sandvik. Dwayne finished up in 12th position. Well, Pieters really zeroes in, leaves nothing to chance.
No, he's concentrating very well, and I'll be very honest with you. Rick is going to have to go after him. He's not going to come back to Rick. Rick's going to have to get up there and catch those numbers. See, easy roll on that ball. Just beautiful roll.
2 games, total pins. Should Pieters win that 2-game match, then they would go to a 3rd game, and only the pins involved in the 3rd game would determine who wins the gold and who wins the silver. If Steelsmith wins the 2-game match, then he is the gold medalist. Which really is kind of an interesting format, Dave, considering all the years that you bowled on the PBA Tour, where if you were the top seed, it was just 1 game. If you won, you took the title home. If you lost, all that week's work went down the drain.
Well, not all of it. You got second place money, which most times wasn't too bad. But
no, but still.
It's not like having that trophy in your hand. You get to the point, and I think that everybody's the same. The money is definitely secondary in the title match. There's no question about it. I don't care what sport it is. The money is secondary in the title match. Even if you're broke, you want to win the title. The more titles you win, obviously, the more qualifiers you have for the Firestone Tournament of Champions, and that's a major thing on our tour.
Speaking of winning titles, you're looking at the 1987 ABC Masters champion, Rick Steelsmith. Needs to get himself righted and throws a solid shot on lane 12. I had the pleasure of working that show on ESPN, the ABC Bud Light Masters, and Rick Steelsmith was absolutely superb.
Well, he's obviously superb on the right lane here, too. I think lane 11 is the lane that he's going to really have to do some major adjusting on, whether it's moving deeper or moving further out. But he's been high, he's been short on it. He just has not even really been close to the pocket. The further out the arc, he's got the ball at the top of the arc, Danny, out around the second or third board sometimes. And there might be just a little trace of oil out there, more so than maybe in the track where the players have burned it, and the ball labors on him when he gets it out too far.
And got a break to kick out the 10-pin that time. The ball is hanging just a little bit. Okay, Dave Davis, let me put you on the spot. What do you do in that situation?
Well, there's two things you can do. You can move out of the area, just get right out of there, but which probably Rick will not do, and probably most players who are in that position won't do because they don't know where to go. If they played there all week, they're going to stay in that area. The other thing is if you're short and high and short and high, you've got to change the speeds and soften it so that it hooks back, or play it straighter and go much firmer.
This really, in essence, the Olympics of bowling as far as the amateurs are concerned, but coming up on September 18th, 1988, for the first time ever, bowling will be used as an exhibition sport in Seoul, South Korea, the Olympic Games, and that is very exciting indeed for the bowling industry.
Oh, it certainly is. Everybody in the industry is excited about this. Can you imagine going to Seoul or going to the next Olympics and having a chance to win a gold medal from the Olympics? It's something you dream about when you're a little boy. It didn't come to pass in my day, but certainly the young people of today are going to have an opportunity for that.
Roger Pieters continues to take advantage of the hot hand. Now a double in the 8th and the 9th, and so match number 1, game number 1, he is in excellent position.
42 pins. 42 pins, a lot of pins for Rick to make up. But Rick has the kind of ball that once he gets lined up on that left lane, lane 11, he's going to throw a lot of strikes.
It's amazing, we talk about how talented Steelsmith is, and yet sometimes you overlook just a little bit the fact that he is only human and only 23 years old and just turned 23, as a matter of fact. Still has a long way to go in that bowling career.
Boy, you're not kidding. He had the opportunity to go to the United States Olympic Training Center. And I think that would be exciting, too. Just to go through that whole facility out there would be great.
I know when I talked to Rick about that, he said, I was especially impressed with the psychological studies and the psychological teaching that not only he, but everybody on Team USA, both the men and the women, received in Colorado Springs. And he said, boy, it was an immeasurable help and basically something that I learned all along at Wichita State, which says a lot for their program.
Well, when you get to the point as good as he is physically, the only thing that would ever stop you probably would be some mental problems, thinking the wrong way or losing a little bit of concentration at the wrong time.
Well, should Roger Pieters take this off the sheet, could shoot a possible 237. And that will not be the case.
Well, 226 isn't a bad start.
Not when you're looking to just get your foot in the door and maybe win that first 2-game match to give yourself a chance. As there you see the expression on Pieters' face. He's got an uphill struggle, and he knows it.
Well, the one thing, providing Rick does not strike out, is he's got a 50-pin lead in the first 2 matches. First 2 games, he's got a 50-pin lead after the first game. That's a lot of pins.
So Roger Pieters with a 226 effort.
Rick has
a very good start.
Right, Rick has a possible 165. I'm sorry, 185. I've often heard the first thing to go is the addition.
And the second is your memory, and you can't remember what the third is, right?
That's right.
Oh, come on, you're not that old. You're still throwing all those strikes down in Orlando, Florida. Come on now.
Well, I don't know about all those strikes.
A few. Rick Steelsmith could use a couple.
This is his favorite lane, as you can see there.
Well, he struck the last 4 shots on the right-hand lane. Now he's got to solve the puzzle of the left-hand lane, lane number 11.
And I really believe that in a pressure situation, going to a slower speed and arcing the ball more is the wrong thing. I think he's just going to have to go to the high hard one, you know, just straighten that line up a little bit and throw it much firmer.
Boy, there you see the wide arc that he's playing. Lots of pin action.
Power plus that shot.
I think you hit the nail on the head, too, Dave, when you said that he combines unbelievable power with the stroke, and he's also very accurate. Boy, you combine those components, and you've got yourself a devastating strike ball, as we've seen right there. I think Rick a little upset with himself that he's off to such a slow start, but again, he is the top seed, so he's in a good position.
Oh, no question about it. And he's going to finish with approximately 185 with a strike here, so he'll only be 41 down if he strikes. And that's not an insurmountable. When you get into the 50s and 60s, it gets tough. I mean, you're forcing yourself to shoot 230 or 240 or 250 to do it.
Of course, he's been rising to the occasion all week long. Was second heading into the final round of match play this morning, and then won 7 consecutive matches to nail down the top seed spot. So after game number 1, Steelsmith shoots 185. I'll make that 184, I should say. Don't go away. Still more action left in the men's division of the 11th FIQ World 10-Pin Championships from Tally Bowling Center in Helsinki, Finland. For a solution to the left-hand lane continues. Roger Pieters is now forced to sudden death third game roll-off after defeating the top seed by a total of 94 pins. Pieters is averaging better than 230 for his opening 2 tests, and it would appear at this point as if Rick Steelsmith has his work cut out. Well, you bowled a lot of games, one-game matches for titles. Now, how does Rick Steelsmith's philosophy change, Dave Davis, for one-game match?
I don't know. I've never been in Rick Steelsmith's position, and I don't know of anybody that has, to where you actually are bowling a 3-game match for a title. The first 2 games, he's been beaten soundly by 94 pins. How do you turn that around? How do you turn it around so fast? In the first 3 or 4 frames, you've got to come out here firing. You don't have any choice now. Well, he's got to start on the lane that's given him all the trouble, lane 11. Let's take a look. Stay firm. Oh, that's as big a shot as Steelsmith has made all week long.
You can hear the crowd react.
Finland. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the Finnish people have watched him, and all the people from this area. There's many people from Sweden and Denmark, all over the Scandinavian countries. They want Rick to win. He's led it all week. He's thrilled them with a 300. He really thrilled them with a 299. They're rooting for him. They really are.
His coach, Bob Mills, alluded earlier this week to the fact that Rick Steelsmith always rises to the occasion. And boy, will he get an opportunity to exercise that here this afternoon. Roger Pieters is averaging in excess of 228 through the first couple of games. Would appear to be in the driver's seat, but Steelsmith started with a big strike. Pieters with a swishing rack and knocks down the 7-pin, and he's got his fair share of rooters here.
And I was wondering what mentally that did to Roger by Rick getting up in the left lane, the lane he struggled with, and all of a sudden, bang, he's got a strike. Didn't seem to bother him at all. He just got up, threw a strike behind him. If I can do it, you can do it, you know.
Well, they've been here 10 days, and some of the players, even longer than that in Helsinki, came in a little bit early to practice. It's been a marvelous tournament. Very successful. The largest field ever for an FIQ championship, 430 bowlers representing 44 nations. The very first, back in 1954, attracted 7 countries.
Well, it's a huge shot for Roger to get out quickly here.
Boy, he throws both hands up in the air, and big strike on the left-hand lane. So he starts with a double, and Steelsmith really has his work cut out.
Well, Rick hit his tough lane. And Roger knew he hit the tough lane, and Roger knows that Rick is probably going to hit the easy lane. See how beautiful that ball stays in the track, Denny? I mean, that is gorgeous. Magnu, that's a Dick Weber shot all the way right there.
Can't do it much better than that.
Yes, sir.
Steelsmith will try and answer the challenge on lane 12. Oh, my! We've got a dogfight here as Steelsmith comes back with a heavy-duty roll on lane 12.
Probably the biggest shot that Rick is going to throw in this match is this frame right here. He's got to prove to Roger that I am zeroed in on both lanes. Watch out.
Is it a mental game, do you think, too, David, as far as match play is concerned?
This is an all-mental game right here. There's no question about it. I mean, they're going to play mind games with each other. Maybe not purposely, but they're going to do it.
Well, Pieters dominated in the 2-game set, winning by 94 pins, but Steelsmith, being the top seed, gets the opportunity to bowl a 3rd game.
No time to be careful. He's got to stay firm in this lane.
He's a very aggressive player. Let that one fly. Will it hold the pocket? No, and he leaves a double pinochle, and that is the first mistake of the title match. That could cost Steelsmith dearly.
Well, I mean, obviously it's going to cost him. You see Roger, Pieters gets up, and he doesn't hook the ball that far to get in that kind of trouble. He'd have to make a dramatic error in his game to leave splits like that or to leave washouts or whatever. And Rick just got soft again, and that's a... Oh, boy, there's a bigger mistake, is only getting 1. I'm sure he didn't intend to do that. But, Denny, the 4-7 is easier to make than the 6-10 when you're shooting the big 4. And you just want to get 2 and get out of there. Take your lumps and sit down.
Roger Pieters, who qualified 2nd and defeated Tom Hall of Finland in the semifinal game, finds himself in the enviable position of having a double and having watched his opponent open while he was on the bench.
Well, exactly. That's happened several times for him today. There are more ways than one to win a tournament.
Plus, I think he's becoming comfortable with the idea that he can beat Steelsmith.
Sure. A little soft. And he gets it right back. Now, you see, well, that's why getting 1 pin on that big 4 for Rick Steelsmith was extremely important. Instead of being 8 down or 6 down, he would have only been 2 down, and there's a major difference there.
Seemed to cut that one a little short.
Yeah,
ball went right through the nose. Yeah, exactly. Maybe trying to steer it a little bit. It's easy to do that, though, isn't it, Dave?
It certainly is. You want to jump on him. You want to put both feet on his neck. You know, you don't want to let him up. And you just get a little careful doing it, and that's the result.
Try and guide it a little bit.
He's doing the right thing, see here? He takes that 1 pin, and that's it. He knows he doesn't want to lose that count.
Well, I bet you Rick Steelsmith is breathing a sigh of relief, though, to see the fact that Pieters is human and he did make a mistake.
6 pins ahead. The difference in the size of the split and the amount of pins in the split. Very deliberate. I like the way he does things. Wipes the ball off, gets the amount of rosin on his hand the way he wants to, sets his fingers, sets his feet, never rushes it.
He's into a routine, and that's what most good coaches will tell you. No matter what sport it is, get into a routine that's comfortable and you can get your rhythm.
Absolutely. Bob Gibson, the great pitcher, stalking the mound, pulling the hat, pulling the pants up.
Another bad shot, though. This one through the nose, and he was lucky not to leave the baby split. So maybe Pieters is becoming a little rattled and starting to unwrap a little bit or unravel under the pressure of the title match.
That could be. You can see how soft. I mean, this ball started rolling very early. As the other shots we've shown on the replays, you could see the ball skidding and then rolling, and this one rolled extremely early. No better swing at that shot.
Mm-hmm. Those 1-pin spares are always a little easier than those strike shots, though, aren't they?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You can see this. You can see the count there, Denny. Now that's where he lost it. Instead of Rick Steelsmith taking 8 out and having 44-52 and only being 4 down, he took that 1 pin, and now he's 6 down. 2 pins doesn't sound like much until you lose by 1. Yeah. Then it sounds like a ton.
Little encouragement for Roger Pieters. Now Rick Steelsmith, who will try the PBA Tour sometime in January after graduating.
He'll be a success.
Well, he's made an adjustment, tightened up a little bit. Instead of throwing the ball outside of 5, Dave Davis, he appears to be a little more conservative with that shot.
Yes. Well, he's looser, especially on lane 12. He loves this lane. You can see how clean that swing is as it goes through. Ball delays perfectly, rolls up there just right.
What's that old saying, trust is a must? Is that what he has to do now in the left-hand lane?
Trust is a must or your game is a bust.
Sounds like you were the one who made that up.
I think that
Explain that quickly.
I think that, well, you've got to trust your shot. You've got to trust what you've been doing all week and trust what you've been practicing for 10 years. And say, look, I know I can stay firm with the ball. I know I can go through to my target. Just do it.
Boy, he hit that thing. Oh, my. Oh, my. Ripped the cover off that shot. He knew it instantly.
Back in the game again. Now, see how nice and firm he was? He didn't mess around with it, just fired it.
Well, you can see him now. He's beginning to dig in and trench out a little bit.
Watch
here.
how he goes through. Watch how hard he goes. Boom! He goes through that ball. Beautiful shot, and that ball just rips back. Bam! I mean, there's no question 10 pins in the pit there.
Well, that's a key double in the 4th and the 5th, and Steelsmith takes the lead halfway through this match.
Roger Pieters is going to make the claw grip famous again.
A la Joe Hutchinson.
Boy, deliberate, deliberate, deliberate. Soft again, Denny. Soft again.
Well,
3 straight shots.
now all of a sudden, and you've seen it so many times, momentum starting to move back in the other direction.
He is a great player in the game, momentum is. He is just an awesome player to have on your side, no question about it. But you think about what Rick did. Rick was sitting there on the bench with a double, got up and got a big 4, 1 pin. All of a sudden, he's 19 pins behind. 2 frames later, he's got the lead back.
Pieters covers to 2, but now has 82 through 5 frames.
He's about approximately 17, 18 pins behind, whereas 2 frames ago, he was 19 ahead. How fast it changes. Now he's got to be wondering. See, we were talking about the mental games. He's got to be wondering now.
Wondering, did I make bad shots, or do I need to adjust, or what?
Exactly, exactly. Now, you know, it's easy to sit up high and look down on the field of play and see the mistakes, but when they're out there, a million things are going through your mind, and this game happens in a blink. And all of a sudden, it's over, and you wonder what happened. A little better speed on that, no question about that. Much better speed.
And a better reaction as the 7-pin finally fell down.
What a great view of Tally Bowl there, to see all the spectators, the built-in bleacher areas here.
Now bowlers and bowling fans from all over the world have converged on Helsinki, Finland this week, and they'll do so once again on September 18th, 1988, when bowling for the first time ever is represented as an exhibition sport in the '88 Olympic Games in Seoul, South Korea. Members from Team USA will be gearing up to bowl in that. Boy, Team USA, the men and the women, have just been phenomenal here this week.
Oh, well, they've really knocked the socks off the pins in this place. Oh, it's inside his target.
Inside, and he gets the break that he needs, and that's a big turkey for Rick Steelsmith, who left just that kind of a 9-pin earlier this week to stop him from shooting 300 for the 2nd time.
You can see now that ball doesn't go out to 4 or 5. That ball's in around 6, and he had enough speed to keep it there.
In the 299, the 4-pin fell, but the 9-pin didn't.
That's right. Well, you know, it was a bad break, too. What a shot he made. Gorgeous shot.
He already set records in a couple of other categories, but now the single game record of 300. He has the only 300 in the history of this tournament.
If he strikes here, he'll be 37 ahead.
He hit it hard. Oh, my,
there it is. We just talked about it.
9-pin, and there it stood.
Can you imagine?
And he cannot believe it. Oh, brother, you just can't throw it any better than that.
That's exactly the shot they left the 299. We just talked about it, and there it is. We shouldn't talk about those things, man.
Boy, it's amazing. Look at that replay.
Look at that ball go through there.
I'll tell you, though, David, with the urethane balls and the contemporary players with the way they hook the ball and hit the ball, in the old days, it used to be the solid 8. Now
That's
it's the
right.
solid 9 because the ball drives too hard.
Well, so much power. Once it grips that lane, it's not going to let go. Even when it hits the pins, it doesn't deflect. And that's the thing that cost him there, was just, actually, he threw the ball too well for the pins. The pins couldn't handle that much power.
That's what drives bowlers crazy.
Oh, yeah. You're supposed to throw it with power, and you're supposed to do all these things, and all of a sudden, blam, you get nailed like that. What are you going to do? How do you back off? You can't back off.
That's right. We'll be back with more bowling action from the Tally Bowling Center in Helsinki, Finland, right after these messages. Center in Helsinki, Finland, for more action in the 11th FIQ Championships.
But now that's much better speed there. And see that ball stays on line, much better.
And he gets a wall shot. Still involved in the match.
Well, he got soft 3 frames in a row in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and he got 2 splits out of the 3 and almost the 3rd shot. He almost left the baby split. You can see him much harder. He accelerates. See how the ball delays? There it starts to roll, and that's where the power to develop to move the pins.
So the key for Roger Pieters is to continue to keep the speed up, actually for both players, huh?
That's exactly right. And Roger is working at a 192 clip right now. Rick is working at a 209. So 17 pins, Roger can close it to within 7 right here.
The winner of this game, the FIQ singles champion, the gold medalist. The loser will take home the silver.
How many people get a chance at it more than once?
Oh, that's a key double.
Now, who can tell you that amateur bowling is not as exciting as professional bowling? I mean, these guys are putting their heart and soul into this thing.
Made some tremendous shots, and there you see the reaction.
Each person has been way behind, and each person so far has risen to the occasion and come right back with it.
Well, now the challenge of striking again sits squarely on the shoulders of 23-year-old Rick Steelsmith. Well, he's just automatic on lane 12. He lets it go, and as he lets it go, David, he's got so much confidence he knows it's going to strike.
Well, the lane reacts perfectly for the way he throws the ball. And that's, boy, you can really get loose. I mean, just look how easy he lets go. You'll see just he rips through it, and I just say, okay, that's solid. Bang. No question about it.
David, is it my imagination, or do the contemporary players lift up more than the players, say your generation? You sort of got the ball out on the lane more. They seem to lift up and hit the ball harder.
They have a more like a fish hook finish. It's very early. See that?
2-8-10, and that poses a real problem for Rick Steelsmith.
You know, we're in the latter stages of this game. And splits like this, you can't afford opens near the end. You've got to keep the pressure on the other player and let him try and catch you if he's going to. You just can't hand it to him. I'll give Rick credit here, though. He threw that ball very firm. He did what he had to do. He got a little bit right where he wanted it, but he stayed firm with the shot, and that's a good thinking player all the way. He's got to get both of them, though, Danny. You got to keep that count.
Well, that he did, but he's really dug himself a deep hole here as he opens in the 9th.
Well, he's shooting at a 197 clip. Roger is working at 202, so it's a 5-pin match. Anything can happen here. Obviously, Roger can get up and get 2 strikes, close it out. Will he get soft? Will he get careful again? That's, you know, we don't know him that well, and we haven't seen him play that much except for this week, and we're going to see how he reacts right here.
Well, it's amazing. It always seems to come down to the last couple of shots.
Exciting. Oh, that's what makes bowling great when it's head-to-head matching.
Well, the pictures speak for themselves. One more strike, and Roger Pieters. And there you see Rick Steelsmith peering up at the telescore.
He needs a mark. He needs a mark. Actually, what he needs is 8 spare 8 for a lockout victory. 7 spare 8 or any open would put Rick right back into the game.
Easier said than done, though, huh?
Now, we look back at the solid 9 in the 7th frame of Rick Steelsmith. That's 21 pins he lost right there. And right now, he's only 15 down. So
it's such a great shot.
Oh, perfect shot.
Boy.
That's the game of bowling, you know, the rub of the green.
How quickly it changes.
Good shot. Yes, sir. Beautiful shot. There's your winner.
Roger Pieters of Belgium has defeated top seed Rick Steelsmith, and it turned out to be a 3-game match, and believe me, Pieters was the underdog all the way.
Check this concentration, boy. And watch how he goes through the ball, Denny. He really rips through it, knowing he doesn't want to go high. Keep the ball in line. Pack. 10 in the pit. Gorgeous.
To win the gold medal, you can't throw any better shot than that.
Raised his arms in victory.
The only player representing Belgium in the finals. He ends up qualifying second, wins 2 matches. He's still running them out, and what a sweet moment right now for 38-year-old Roger Pieters.
Possible 232. What does that do for his average for those 3 games?
Well, he averaged better than, actually right around 230 for the 3 games. And as we've mentioned a couple of times, I don't think anybody other than his teammates, close friends, and countrymen ever would have figured he would have come in and defeated Rick Steelsmith. Steelsmith with an unbelievable week and certainly bowled well here today. As
how exciting. Down on his knees, throwing that ball, getting a great hug from that coach. Again, you know, there's 4 or 5 years of preparation right there.
standing ovation from the bowling fans here as Steelsmith will finish out. And a very disappointed Rick Steelsmith at this point, I would venture to say, but he is a class individual, a class competitor, and I think Rick probably realizes he let one get away from him, but it's not the end of the world.
No. He's going to be a very successful player no matter what he does. But just think about it, Danny. The last two major tournaments that he's played in, last two tournaments were both majors. He won one and finished second the other. I mean, that's not bad credentials.
No, it sure isn't. Obviously, not getting what he wanted, he comes over and handshakes and hugs Roger Pieters, and it's a long, long, arduous journey to win the gold medal. And there you see Pieters gets mobbed, and Rick Steelsmith, I think, still kind of in a little disbelief mode, Dave Davis. I don't think he figured there's any way that Pieters could beat him for the championship.
Well, I don't think anybody thought. I mean, there's over 2,000 people in here, and maybe half a dozen thought that he could beat him 3 straight games. Nobody thought he could.
Well, other than Roger Pieters, perhaps. And if you believe in yourself and you believe in goals and hard work, you can accomplish those goals.
Great mental approach.
So the country of Belgium ends up with the gold medal in the singles, as you see the score of the third and deciding game after Pieters had won the first 2 games total by 94 pins, came out with a 35-pin victory. The first shot in the 10th, really the one that locked it up. Have now come to a close here at Tally Bowl in Helsinki. Team USA, with a total of 11 medals overall, had a terrific FIQ championship. And of course, congratulations are in order for the 2 individual Masters champions, Roger Pieters of Belgium and Annette Hagberg of Sweden. For Dave Davis, this is Denny Schreiner saying so long from Helsinki, Finland.